Today, we're going to talk about something almost everyone experiences, but many people feel guilty about. It's wasting time. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever been sitting with your phone or staring out of a window and suddenly looked at the clock and realized that an entire hour had passed? And the first reaction is usually, oh no, I wasted my time. But wait a second. Was that time really wasted? In this episode, we're going to explore this idea together in a very simple way, almost like we're sitting together having a calm conversation about how our minds really work. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why do we feel guilty when we do nothing? Let me start with a small story. One day, a young man told me, "Doctor, I feel like I'm failing in life." So I asked him, "Why do you feel that way?" He said, "Because sometimes I sit for 1 or 2 hours doing nothing." So I asked him another question. "What do you do during the rest of your day?" He replied, "I study, I work, and I help my family." So I told him something simple. The problem isn't your time. The problem is the guilt you feel. The truth is that modern society quietly pressures us. We see videos about success. We see people saying things like, "Wake up at 5 a.m., work 12 hours a day, don't waste a single second." These messages repeat every day, and slowly our minds begin to believe that successful people must always be busy. But psychology tells us something very different. The brain is not a machine. It cannot operate at full capacity all day long. In fact, the brain actually needs periods of doing nothing. Yes, nothing. Moments without pressure or tasks. Those moments are not weakness. They're part of how the mind naturally works. Chapter 2. What happens in your brain when you waste time? Now imagine a simple scene. You're walking down the street. You're not thinking about anything specific. Your mind moves from one thought to another. Maybe you remember something that happened yesterday. Then you think about an old friend. Then suddenly, an idea about a problem you've been thinking about appears. Do you know what's happening in your brain? Your brain enters what scientists call the default mode network. Simply put, this is the mode your brain uses when you're not focusing on a specific task. And something amazing happens during this time. Your brain starts connecting memories, ideas, and experiences. It's like someone assembling puzzle pieces. That's why many people say, "My best ideas come when I'm in the shower." It's not because the shower is magical. It's because in that moment, you're not forcing yourself to think. And when you stop forcing your brain to think, real thinking begins. Chapter 3. Why creativity is born in moments of idleness. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine your mind as a work desk. If the desk is completely covered with papers and objects, there's no space to work. But when you clear some of the clutter, suddenly there's room for new ideas. Mental space works the same way. When your mind is constantly busy processing information, there's no space for creativity. But when you allow moments of mental quiet, your brain begins asking questions like, what if we tried this differently? Is there an easier solution? That's why many writers, artists, and creators spend long periods walking or sitting quietly. It may look like they're doing nothing, but in reality, their minds are preparing something new. Ideas need space to appear. Chapter 4. Why the brain sometimes needs to do absolutely nothing? Here's something that might surprise you. The human brain uses a huge amount of energy. Even though it's a small part of the body, it consumes a large portion of our energy. When you spend the entire day thinking, solving problems, making decisions, your brain is constantly working. It's like a phone running too many apps at once. Eventually, the phone slows down. The same thing happens with the mind. When we don't give it time to rest, mental fatigue appears. You might notice things like difficulty concentrating, feeling stressed easily, getting tired from simple tasks, Sometimes the solution is not to work harder. Sometimes the solution is simply to pause. Chapter 5. Quiet Moments and Thinking About Life. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat alone, without your phone, and without noise? Just you and your thoughts. In the past, this happened more often. But today, smartphones fill almost every empty moment. Sometimes we're even afraid of silence. But silence is incredibly important, because during quiet moments, the mind starts asking deeper questions. Questions like, am I happy with my life? What do I truly want to achieve? Am I moving in the right direction? These questions rarely appear when we're busy. They appear when we slow down. That's why many people discover important life decisions while traveling or walking alone. Chapter 6. When does wasting time become dangerous? So far, we've talked about the positive side. But we also need to be honest. Not all wasted time is helpful. There's a big difference between rest and avoidance. Rest means taking a break so you can regain energy. Avoidance means constantly postponing important things. For example, a student delaying studying every day. Someone with dreams but spending most of their time scrolling aimlessly. In this case, wasting time becomes a real problem. That's why the secret is not constant work, and it's not constant rest either. The secret is balance. Chapter 7. How to Use Free Time in a Smart Way. Instead of fighting moments of idleness, we can use them wisely. For example, try walking sometimes without your phone. You'll notice your thoughts becoming clearer. Or sit quietly for a few minutes. Don't force yourself to think about anything. Just let your thoughts move naturally. You might be surprised by the ideas that appear. The mind is like water. When it's under pressure, it stops flowing. But when you give it space, it begins to move freely. In a world that constantly tells us to be productive every second, we often forget something simple. The human mind sometimes needs to stop. Not every unproductive moment is wasted. Sometimes the best ideas, the clearest thoughts, and the most important realizations are born in silence. So, the next time you find yourself staring at the sky or walking without a specific destination, don't immediately say, "I'm wasting time." Maybe, in that moment, your mind is simply taking a deep breath.